Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are here to discuss the brand new eyeshadow palette from Manny MUA, and it's called Life's a Drag. So if that's something you're interested in watching, then you are in the right place. We're about to get into it.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf.
Alright guys, so unless you've been living underneath a rock, then you guys know the famous YouTuber Manny MUA, whose name is actually Manny Gutierrez, has come out with a brand new eyeshadow palette. Now this is not your normal eyeshadow palette. Manny's campaign for this eyeshadow palette was quite different than a lot of YouTube influencers. One of the things that he did different was a serious PR campaign. He did interviews with local media, he did interviews with online media, with places such as Bustle and Allure. They all did interviews with him to talk about the launch of not only the palette, but of Lunar Beauty, which is his brand. The marketing campaign itself was absolutely gorgeous. Manny actually pulled in fellow YouTuber Alyssa Ashley along with two RuPaul's Drag Race alumni stars, Shea Coulee and Pheromone. So both of those beauties were involved in the marketing campaign for this particular palette, as well as Alyssa Ashley. So the pictures from the campaign and the marketing are gorgeous. They really are stunning. If you haven't seen them, I definitely recommend that you go to Lunar Beauty and look them up. Lunar Beauty is the name of the brand. The website is lunarbeauty.com. Now the palette itself is scoring rave reviews from everybody online, so obviously it was something that I had to get my hands on. It is a little bit of a different palette in that not only does it include neutral tones that you can use for the everyday, but it also includes some pretty incredible bright pops of color. My favorite part about the palette is that 99% of the colors are matte formulas with only 2 shimmers, and boy are they shimmery. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and dive into this palette. First, I want to start with the packaging. So when you first receive your palette, you're going to get it in a carton, and this is the unicarton. It's actually really gorgeous. This is very glittery. It says Life's a Drag on the front. It has the Lunar Beauty logo up here at the top, and it just says color palette down here at the bottom, and then on the back you have that gold imprint again, and it has a nice little note from Manny MUA here with his signature and his social media campaign. So I think it's really, really pretty, and yeah, I really like the outside carton. Now, as you get into the palette, you really start to see Manny's creativity come to life here. This is probably one of the most stunning palettes that I've ever seen from a component perspective. So this is actually the outside of the palette. It has this holographic photo of Manny's eyes in drag here using the palette itself. It says Life's a Drag at the bottom, and on the back it just has this beautiful Lunar Beauty here with Life's a Drag down here at the bottom. I know it's kind of hard to see. All of this is really holographic and reflective, so it's going to play with the light a little bit on the camera, but what I'll do is I'll give you guys a close-up so that you can actually see what the outside of this looks like. So again, the outside cover is just this really pretty rainbow holographic effect with the eyes on it. I love the look of it. The Life's a Drag is kind of a raised print on the front. And then what I really like is the gold sparkle edging all the way around the palette. And then on the spine of the palette, it says Lunar Beauty. And then on the back, you have the Lunar Beauty logo with Life's a Drag and all of Manny's social media. And again, it has that holographic kind of shift to it. So the outside of this is actually quite stunning. I really love the outside packaging. Now, is about the formula itself. Manny did a launch video, and I encourage you guys to watch it, where he actually talks about the process of the formulation. He talks about what they went through, how the palettes were created, how the formula was created. One thing that he did mention is that it is cruelty-free. That's something that you're able to verify through the business. Another thing that he claimed is that it is actually vegan, although they wanted to launch a little early and waiting for the vegan certification was apparently taking a little time. So they decided to go ahead with the launch without the vegan certification on the packaging. But he does claim that it is a vegan formula because of the fact that he didn't use any ingredients that include animal byproduct, including carmine. So he formulated these without carmine, and I was able to verify that just by the list of ingredients. So he does say that this is a vegan palette as well, even though you're not going to see it marked as one. Whether or not that was a good move on his part, you know, there's a lot of debate out there right now about it. But regardless, if vegan products are of a concern to you, it's very easy just to check the list of ingredients and you can verify the ingredients for yourself. So this is made in the USA and it is cruelty-free. Now, let's get into the inside of this beauty. So when you first open it up, the first thing that you're going to notice is that it comes with a brush. So the brush is down here. We'll talk about that a little later. Then you have this beautiful mirror up here. Again, it's got this really pretty kind of holographic shine to the whole outside of it. It has this really pretty edging around it. It says "Be a Queen" right here, which I think is really cute. And then you have that gold foil that you saw on the edges is actually the palette itself, and the colors are sunk down into that kind of gold sparkle. So as you look at the palette, one of the first things that you notice is that half of it is neutral, the other half is pops of color, and then you have two foil shades or metallics down the center. So overall, this is a very different kind of idea for a palette, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of living for it. I really like the concept. I love this idea of a neutral and a pop of color palette. So yeah, I think this is stunning. But let me give you guys a close-up of the inside here just so that you can take a look. Of course, all of the names of the eyeshadows are all kind of drag names that are used in drag lingo. I love that. Then you have, again, the neutrals and then the pops of color, and then you have the shimmers down the middle. I love the mirror. Considering that it has so many colors in it, I'm surprised at how, I mean, granted, it is a huge palette by comparison to some other palettes, but considering that it has a brush in it and it has all of these colors in it, I mean, it has 14 pans in here, so it's quite a big palette as far as product is concerned, but it is quite travel friendly. Like, I would definitely grab this and throw it in a bag and take it with me. And considering the way that this palette is designed, this is probably going to be a really popular travel palette because it's got just about everything that you need in order to create a look in one palette. You have your neutrals, you have your pops of color, you have your foils, you have a white, you have a black, so it's got just about everything that you need without having to reach for another palette. And there's not a lot of palettes out there that can actually say that. All right, guys, so we've looked at the outside, we've talked about the company, so let's get into some swatches. So first we're going to start with swatching the neutral side. I figured that would be the best way to do the swatches is to do the neutrals, to do the shimmers, and then to do the pops of color. So in the neutrals, it does include the white and the black, which I would have loved to have had a white and a black and then two more neutrals so that I actually had 6 neutrals and 6 pops of color, then a white and a black and 2 foils, but beggars can't be choosers. So we end up with a beautiful white, a beautiful black, and 4 basically neutral colors. Then we have 2 foils that are called Beat and Legendary, and these foils are gorgeous. They're gorgeous in the light, they're gorgeous under a flash, they're just beautiful shimmer colors. And then, of course, you have these pops of color. Now, these pops of color are stunning. I will say that there's one pop of color in here that is almost like a satin. It's not quite a matte, and it has a little bit of a satiny color to it, but you guys, these colors are ridiculous as far as pigment is concerned. The pigment in these bright pops of color is absolutely stunning. I think he completely outdid himself with this particular palette. I think from a swatch perspective, it looks absolutely gorgeous. And I know a lot of people have kind of said, you know, the swatches don't look so great, but it performs really, really well on the eye. And I don't think the swatches look that bad. So for me, the swatches look great. And the feel of each individual pan, you can just tell that it's a high quality formula. So when it comes to application, so none of all of this matters if the actual application and wear on the eye sucks, right? So one thing I can tell you about these shadows is that they really stay true to their color. They blend. You can get a beautiful gradient with these shadows without them turning muddy or all kind of blending together. These shadows are one of those rare shadows that I say actually blend themselves. You can get some really beautiful looks with this formula. The look that I have on tonight was a look that I made strictly with this palette. We'll go ahead and get into some application here just so that you guys can see what the application process looks like. One thing I really like about this palette is the transition color on the neutral side called Sickening. It is a beautiful transition color. It is the perfect tone for a transition color, especially when you're working with neutrals. Hunty is also a great transition tone when working with neutrals, and I really like the choices that he made as far as neutrals are concerned. They blend out beautifully. You guys know me, I'm gonna do a neutral eye. They look gorgeous, especially the shimmers. The shimmers are stunning. I, for this particular look, didn't use any of the shimmers, but I did want to use the matte white. I wanted to see how crazy the matte white is, and it is stunning, you guys. The matte white is one of the prettiest shades in this palette. But overall, the colors perform great. They blend out beautiful. I have used the pops of color just to create some crazy looks to see how they worked, and they work beautifully, especially that light teal is beautiful as a transition color. Overall, the palette itself is an absolute home run, and it's absolutely Erika approved. So I've worn this palette all week long, you guys, and the color longevity is also fantastic. I've worn it with and without primers, and they perform really well. I really like this palette, and honestly, you guys, I was going through my palette collection, and you guys, if you only knew, I have Anastasia palettes, I have my Natasha Denona's, Viseart, Too Faced, I have ColourPop, I have Colored Rain, Nudie Patootie, all the Huda Beauty. You know, I mean, the eyeshadow palettes that I have is a little borderline ridiculous. But what I did was I actually thought about this particular palette and where I would rank this palette in performance in regards to all of the palettes that I had. And I don't know if you guys would be surprised to learn or not, but this actually wound up in my top 3, only behind Viseart palettes and one Natasha Denona palette. Other than that, I can't think of another palette that I like better than this one. I like it in the fact that it's all encompassing. Like, I can take this one palette and pack it and not have to worry about needing anything else. The formula is spot on. They're all mattes except for 2, which are good foils that you can use for those accents that you need. So if you're a shimmer girl, this is not a shimmer palette. There is one that's a little bit like a satin in here, but not enough for me to actually classify it as like a shimmer. So I really like this palette, in case you guys didn't know. Now, the palette itself is $45, which I think is absolutely well worth the spend, considering that you get a brush included, and we'll go over the brush. You guys, honestly, as much as he said that, you know, he really wanted to include a brush that was good and that he wanted to make sure people used and wasn't one that you would just grab and throw away, I don't like brushes that are included with palettes. I typically never do. However, I can say this is one of the better brushes included with this palette. So you have one that's a little bit of like a fluffy blender on this end. I'll show you guys a close-up of it just so that you can see what it looks like. But it's got a little bit of a fluffy brush on one end, and then it has a packing brush on the other. I think any fluffy brush that you have will probably work better than this one. But the packing brush is actually quite nice. It's very dense. The synthetic fibers do a really good job when it comes to packing those foils on, or even packing any of the matte colors on. I like that end, but the blending brush just, it just leaves a lot to be desired. But it does feel nice quality, and then of course it's got the Lunar Beauty etched on the middle. So, I mean, overall, the brush is one of the better brushes that I've ever seen included with a palette, with the exception of maybe the Anastasia brushes, because I really do like those brushes. But this is of that stature. It is a brush that, you know, somebody would keep and use, but I appreciate that it's in there, and I think it does add value to the actual palette. I absolutely think it's worth the investment. I absolutely appreciate the fact that he didn't do a limited stock launch, and for those of you guys that don't know what a limited stock launch is, it's basically a way to increase hype around a product. This is a common tactic that a lot of manufacturers use out in the industry. You'll notice things like the Jaclyn Hill palette and how it sold out so many times. Even like the Jeffree Star Blood Sugar palette, or, I mean, there's a lot of really famous launches that happen, and the product supposedly sells out like that. And what happens is they don't do a launch with a huge amount of merchandise for the first launch, because a sellout really can boost the value of the brand. And then when you do another release or a restock, then a lot of times from a marketing perspective, you can actually see double or triple your sales numbers, because you have boosted the awe and wonder around the palette. So Manny said going into this that he did not want to do a limited stock launch. He wanted to make sure that off the jump that the merchandise was available for everyone that wanted to purchase it. And I can commend him for that, because he probably gave up a significant, I don't want to venture a guess, but I mean, it could be upwards of a 20% increase in his sales by foregoing that little process that they do, which is genuinely at the expense of consumers, because it causes, while it does increase the hype around a product, it does cause a lot of frustration when it comes to the consumers. However, it works, and that's why they keep doing it. So, you know, I guess we're to blame a little bit there too for falling for it every time. However, Manny said that wasn't something he wanted to do, and he wanted to make sure that this was a palette that was available to anybody that wanted it, and he gave up a lot of money to do that, and that says something about him as a creator, and it also says something about him as a brand owner, and how he is going to be going forward with his brand and any additional products that they may bring along. But overall, guys, it's an Erika approved palette. It's by far one of my favorites. It's one of my top 3 palettes. I will reach for this baby probably on a daily basis. So if you guys want to see like a look with some of the pretty colors, or if you'd like to see some tutorials with the palette, let me know down in the comments below, and that will be some content that I will be happy to provide for you. So alright guys, other than that, I think we are done here. It's absolutely Erika approved. Great job, Manny. Congratulations to Lunar Beauty. You guys did a really good job with this palette. Alright guys, so if you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell on your way out so that you know every time I upload a video. If you appreciate the work I do here, you are welcome to support the channel. The link, so how you can do that, will be in the credits. And we have a contest. Don't forget about the contest. There is a video a couple of videos back reviewing the Pinky Rose palettes, and in that video, all you have to do is like that video, leave a comment down in the description of how you would like to be reached in the event that you win, and be a subscriber, and you are in for that big box of goodies. We are also having a video going over the big box of goodies and how it's grown since the last time I went over it with you guys. And then we'll be doing our drawing this next coming up weekend. So, yay! Hope everybody is happy and healthy, and I will see you guys in my next